Welcome back, you guys, and there are NBA free agents that signed with new teams that I don't think have been talked about enough on YouTube, so I thought why not make a video about them. Now, there won't be any obvious people on here like LeBron or anything. These guys will be starters or first guys off the bench. Also, I'm not sure all of these players will necessarily improve their team's record by much, but they will help improve in areas that they lacked in 2018. Let me know what you think of these 6 players on the list, and let's get into it. First on the list, we have TREVOR, who signed a 1-year, $15 million deal with the Phoenix Suns. I was at the Raptors-Suns game back in December where DeMar DeRozan scored like 40 points or something. They gave DeMar absolutely no resistance. He was able to get to his spots, take hard angles to the hoop after getting a screen, and get to the free throw line. Josh Jackson and the other Suns defenders were not ready for someone of DeMar's caliber as an offensive player. Luckily for them, they just got someone in free agency who can take on that role on defense. For the past 4 years with the Houston Rockets, TREVOR has been tasked as their 3-and-D specialist, a player that can take a majority of their shots from catch-and-shoot threes and defend the other team's top offensive threat. He was especially valuable in this past year's season when the Rockets were able to push the Warriors to a 7-game series. Yes, he missed all of his 3-point shots in Game 7 and struggled to hit threes in that postseason overall, but he was still very valuable. Durant got his buckets in that series, but Ariza was able to sometimes push him off his spots and make good contests. That's all you can ask for when defending KD. For the past 3 seasons, the Phoenix Suns have been one of the worst defensive teams in the league. I don't expect them to get that much better, but Ariza will be able to patch up some holes. He will be assigned to defending the other team's best offensive player and give Devin Booker and Josh Jackson a lesser role. I could see Devin Booker getting into a place in his career where he's at least an average to above average defender. He's just not ready yet now, but being around TREVOR for a year will be good for his development. Unless a couple players take huge steps this year, I don't see the Suns making a run for the playoffs, but they will be competitive at the very least. Adding an NBA champion like TREVOR to defend the other team's best wing scorer and space the floor on offense will help out the Phoenix Suns a lot. The second player on here we got is Austin Rivers, who was traded to the Washington Wizards over the summer. The Clippers did not make the playoffs last year, but they made a respectable effort without CP3 and Blake. Lou Williams and Tobias Harris were playing well in that second half of the year, but Austin Rivers was a part of that playoff push too. Austin had more responsibility as a pick-and-roll ball handler and isolation player. He stepped up for LA and had career highs in 3-point percentage, points per game, and assists. Austin has a quick first step to get to the rim, and he's an above-average 3-point shooter, so he is valuable as an offensive player. This is what the Wizards needed badly in 2018. Besides Thomas Satoransky, who isn't much of a scorer, the Wizards do not have much shot creation at the 1 or 2 outside of John Wall and Bradley Beal. I think some people forget that the Wizards brought in Ty Lawson for that playoff series against the Raptors. Lawson was out of the NBA for a year. That's how desperate the Wizards were for shot creation. And now they have a guy who can create shots with the bench when Wall or Beal are out at a reliable level. The highest point of the season for Austin Rivers came in the month of December 2017. He was averaging 19 points, 4 assists, shot 45% from the field, and shot 43% from the 3-point line. This is a guy who will be coming off the bench for the Wizards and who was in his final year of his contract, so he'll be looking to prove himself for 2019 free agency so he can get a long-term contract. Next, we have Ersan Ilyasova, who is now back with the Milwaukee Bucks after some years with Atlanta and Philly. Ilyasova is a 6'10" power forward, and in 23 games with Philly last year, he averaged 11 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, and shot 36% from the 3-point line. He was also important for Philly in their first-round series win over the Miami Heat as a floor spacer, rebounder, and even as a defender. In 2018, the Bucks were the 4th worst team in 3-pointers made per game. Now, the Bucks' problems on offense are more complicated than their floor spacing around Giannis, but having someone that has to be defended at 24 feet is good for them. I think the threat of someone making a 3 is just as important as making the 3. Let's just say Ersan makes a 3 in the first quarter because the guy that was guarding him helped. Now Ilyasova's defender will have to think about that whenever he's guarding him in the second or third quarter. I don't know if that makes sense, but it does to me. When you have someone as good at slashing as Giannis, then you're going to need spacing at the 5 so you can take the center away from the basket. Not only can Ilyasova make threes, but he can put the ball on the floor if he gets closed out on, take 2 dribbles, and make a layup or make a quick pass. He also played a bit of center when Embiid was out in the playoffs and at the end of the regular season, so he can handle some of the duties of playing the 5. They also have a new head coach in Mike Budenholzer that should be a lot more creative in making teams work on both sides of the floor. You add in Brook Lopez to that mix, you have a lot of spacing and offensive creativity there. These two definitely will be the most skilled frontcourt players Giannis has ever played with, so it should be a good year for him. Giannis has never played with guys that are this good at shooting in the frontcourt, so in theory, this should be a good year. When your offense is built around a 6'11" guy that is basically a walking bucket at the rim, you need all the room you can get, so credit to the Bucks for finding players to maximize their stars' skill set. Third on the list, we got another player who was on the 76ers this year, and that is Marco Bellinelli. The Spurs in the 2017-18 season were one of the 5 worst teams in both three-point percentage and three-point makes per game. Kawhi being out hurt their three-point stats, but even if he was playing for most of the season, they would still have a three-point shooting problem. You have DeJounte Murray, who's good at a few things, but he's not a shooter yet. He's not really a catch-and-shoot guy or someone who can pull up off a pick-and-roll like Curry, Lillard, or Kemba. I'm not expecting Murray to help much there. With DeMar DeRozan, he improved a bit last year, but he's still not reliable. He is still below average. Patty Mills was their best three-point shooter. Once you go down the roster, you can just see that there's nobody at the 1, 2, or 3 that takes a bunch of threes. They have Lonnie Walker, but he has to prove that he can make threes at a consistent rate first. LaMarcus and Pau Gasol sometimes take threes, but not enough of them to really affect the game. That's where Marco Bellinelli comes in to help out. They're going to need him a lot next year to make at least 1 to 2 threes a game off the bench, so they're not in the bottom 5 again in three-point makes. Marco was a huge part of Philly's win streak at the end of the regular season. In 28 regular season games with Philly, he shot 39% from 3 and averaged 14 points. He continued that three-point barrage into the series with Miami, but kind of fell off against Boston. Even with all of his flaws, Marco gives San Antonio an option as someone who can come off a curl screen or be a spot-up shooter. I'd expect Marco to get a good amount of minutes this year so San Antonio can make some threes. Next we have Tyreke Evans, and this man revived his career as a legitimate starter in 2018 with Memphis. It was his best year since his rookie year in Sacramento. When Mike Conley went out with an injury, he was their #1 shot taker and most reliable offensive player. Now with the Indiana Pacers, Tyreke will patch up some of Indiana's holes in their bench lineup. At one point during the year in February, the Pacers were 0-6 without Oladipo and lost those 6 games by an average of more than 12 points. We saw what happened to the Pacers during Game 2 of the series against the Cavs when Oladipo went out with foul trouble. They had nobody to run the offense through at the 1, 2, or 3. Their offense just collapsed with no one that could consistently create pressure in a pick and roll or in isolation. Well, this year they theoretically should not have that problem. At 6'6", 220 pounds, Tyreke Evans is a near 20 point per game scorer that Indiana will throw out there with Oladipo or without. Head coach Nate McMillan will have an easier time sleeping before a game, knowing that his team's offense won't fall apart when Victor Oladipo is on the bench. These were some of Tyreke's averages with Memphis this past year. Even if Tyreke slightly falls off in three-point and field goal percentage, that's okay. The threat of him making a three-point shot is still there. You have to defend him. This guy's a creative dribble and finisher at the rim. He can get to the free throw line, push the ball in transition after getting a rebound, and simply just get buckets. I don't know how much Indiana's record will improve, but I think what will improve is their bench scoring. I expect him and Kyle O'Quinn to form a nice little duo in the second lineup. For the last part of the video, we got Julius Randle, who signed a 2-year, $18 million deal with the Pelicans. I thought that was way under his actual value, so the Pelicans got a nice deal there. Julius is 6'9", 250 pounds, and his best skill is barreling to the rim. Julius might be one of the few players with LeBron where you're like, God damn, this dude is just so much stronger than everyone on the court. When he gets a guard or a big man that is just visibly weaker than him, you can just mark 2 points on the board or get ready for the foul call. He is so dominant in the paint, and if he misses a layup, he has a quick second jump so he can put back his missed shot. Out of every player in the league, Julius Randle ranked 10th in restricted area shots per game. 87% of his shots were in the paint, so expect him to be scoring in the paint a lot for the Pelicans next year. You add that dynamic with Anthony Davis, who was 5th in restricted area shot attempts overall, you got a pretty tough offensive duo. Now what Julius will do for the Pelicans that DeMarcus wasn't able to do is play fast like they did in the second half of the year and be a switchable defender. Now, I'm not saying Julius is an amazing defender or anything. I'm simply saying that he will be able to do things on defense that DeMarcus could not. Julius can defend in space and is more mobile moving side to side and can compete against smaller players. I am interested to see Julius Randle play small ball 5 with Nikola Mirotic in a bench lineup. Mirotic, Randle, and Davis are 3 players with vastly different skill sets on offense, so the Pelicans will have creative ways to score inside and at the 3-point line. And that's it for me and some NBA free agents that I think will help improve their new teams. Again, I don't know how much these teams will improve record-wise, but they will help out 2018's weaknesses. Also, I opened up my Instagram page, so if you want to check that out, go ahead and just search up CaineLovesCali. Don't really know what I'm going to do with it, but yeah, you can go check that out. That's it for this video, so I'll see you guys soon.
Now he's trying to get it into the key, so turnabout is fair play. Did the same thing.
Talk about telegraphing passes.
Exactly. Randle trying to go down the middle.